Welcome to the Further Light Podcast, presented by Wisconsin Freemasonry, helping you accomplish your Masonic goals through education and more light. And now, I present to you, Brother Chris Ludke.
Listeners, scholars, brothers, this is Brother Chris Ludke, and today I want to explore, I want to look at two articles that have been written in the Masonic Journal by our Grand Orator, Worshipful Brother Dan Johnson of Southern Lakes Lodge. And the reason I want to do this is these two articles really go together beautifully. The first one is on the Cornerstone and the second on the Hourglass. And it struck me that this is kind of touching on the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end in Masonry, and thought that they would be an interesting pair to look at and juxtapose in the podcast. The first one on the Cornerstone is from the September edition, September 2023 of the Wisconsin Masonic Journal. And again, this is by Dan Johnson. As usual with these articles, I'm going to be annotating a little bit as we go through them as ideas pass through my head, because I'm not known for scripting everything word for word. Shocking at this point. So, to start, quote, "One of the first symbols that is touched upon with new Masons is the cornerstone. Some Masonic scholars believe that the cornerstone symbolizes the move from darkness of the north to the light of the east. The thought is that before initiation, a Freemason stands in the darkness of the world. He seeks light in joining a lodge, and on initiation, he is ultimately placed in the northeast corner to symbolize the beginning of his journey from darkness to light. By placing him there, we also symbolically help him to lay the first stone of his own metaphorical Masonic temple. It is a building that he will continue to construct and expand upon as he gains Masonic knowledge during his journey in Freemasonry. Standing prominently in the northeast corner, a new Mason has a clean slate. His journey at this point will be what he makes of it. It could be a life-changing experience, or the building could stand partially built forever. The choice is his. But as his brothers, we must help get all the important stones in place. Help him to build upon his Masonic foundation from that point forward. The cornerstone is also a highly regarded symbol in the field of operative masonry. Traditionally, in operative masonry, the first stone of a building was laid in the northeast corner. In ancient times, the laying of the cornerstone was an important occasion, and it often involves some ritual sacrifice or ceremony. As an aside, this is happening everywhere from Mesoamerica to China to Europe, the Roman Empire, the Greeks, etc. We regularly see some kind of ritual sacrifice at the laying of a cornerstone, the construction of a temple, etc. Back to the article. These sacrifices could involve grain, oil, or even blood. One such example occurred with the rebuilding of the city of Rome in ancient times. In the history of Tacitus, well-known Roman historian, Book 4, Chapter 53, there is a flowing account of Rome's reconstruction. It begins with the ceremonial laying of the cornerstone. The ceremony involves sprinkling the cornerstone location with water, purifying it with the sacrifice of a sow, a sheep, and a bull. Tacitus tells us that in order to get the cornerstone to its location, magistrates, in other words, judges, of state, the priests, the senators, the knights, and a number of the citizens with zeal and joy united their efforts, dragging the huge stone along through the town and to the site of the building. There are, of course, ceremonies involving Freemasonry associated with the laying of a cornerstone. One of the most famous, of course, being September 18th, 1793, when George Washington presides over the laying of the cornerstone at the building that would be known as the U.S. Capitol Building. The practical significance and importance of a cornerstone cannot be understated. To start with, a cornerstone must be level and square. All the remaining stones of the building are based off of this reference point. Essentially, the cornerstone sets the example for all the other stones on how they should lay and be oriented. Laying the cornerstone just right takes time, effort, and planning. When we look at all the important aspects of the placing of the cornerstone and all of its physical attributes, the parallel to the making of a good man becomes clear. Turning yourself into a good man takes time, effort, and planning. It will not happen by accident. In laying the cornerstone, just like in the world of self-improvement, careful attention to detail is important, and thinking about how these actions will affect the future is critical. It isn't easy being a cornerstone. The stones above and around you rely on you for support. They rely on the example you set to make sure that they are also following the correct path. My challenge to you today is to look inward and make sure that you are truly acting like a cornerstone in your daily life. Be a leader. Be rock solid in your support of others around you. Share your inner knowledge and experience with others and be proud of the metaphorical edifice you are helping to create by doing so. Be a cornerstone, brothers. And again, that is from Dan Johnson, our Grand Orator, and that was what he wrote in September. Now I want to grab what he wrote in October. And what he does is he looks at the hourglass. Now, of course, we're looking at two very different things. The northeast corner is something that happens very early, acting as that cornerstone, that support for everyone around us. But now let's kind of look towards the end. So this is looking at the symbolism of the hourglass by, again, worshipful brother Daniel Johnson of Southern Lakes Lodge, and this is from the October Wisconsin Masonic Journal, October of 2023. Before we explore the symbolism associated with the hourglass, a little discussion of its origin is helpful. The origin of the hourglass as a tool to keep track of time is sometimes attributed to a French monk who lived in the 8th century, although this origin has not been conclusively determined. The hourglass was widely used as a timepiece in Europe until about the 1500s, when the mechanical clock begins to take over. Before the hourglass was invented, time was kept by water clocks and sundials. The hourglass was a device that was particularly useful in the shipping industry because of its ability to measure time accurately in the turbulent waters of the ocean. The symbolism and hidden meaning associated with the hourglass are incredibly varied. The hourglass, as a symbol, can represent the simple idea of the passing of time in our lives and remind us that life is finite in nature. In this context, the upper chamber of the hourglass can represent the potential that our lives hold, and the lower chamber represents the inevitability of the span of time continuing until its ultimate conclusion. It can also be looked at as a symbol of our own mortality and as a representation of the cycle of life from beginning to end. Some look at it as a reminder of the fact that life itself is constantly changing and evolving, and the concept that change in life is inevitable. It is certainly a stark reminder that the hours of the day should not be wasted. Examples of the hourglass being used as a metaphor in this fashion can be found throughout literature. In the epic poem The Odyssey, Homer uses the symbol of the hourglass to depict the time Odysseus has left in his journey, and to signify the importance of using that time wisely. In Freemasonry, the hourglass is used to remind us of the fleeting nature of life itself. An hourglass in this context is often depicted with wings attached to it, memorializing the idea that time flies. When it comes to the hourglass as a timepiece, it is the polar opposite of a clock. For a clock, time has no beginning or end, similar to the existence of the divine creator. The passage of time for him is never ending. But for us, time exists in the finite capsule of the hourglass. The sands flow, and once they run out, there is no putting them back in. Looked at this way, the hourglass can be a little bit of a depressing symbol. but I prefer to look at from the standpoint of the days of our lives being an opportunity. Each day that we are given by our Creator is in fact an opportunity to learn, to grow, to make a positive impact in the world around us. The time that we have is a precious gift to us from our Creator, and we need to use it in a positive way. The great Christian thinker, philosopher, and theologian John Wesley framed this concept in a way that has always resonated. He is said to have stated, quote, "Do all the good you can, by all the means you can, in all the ways you can, in all the places you can, at all the times you can, to all the people you can, as long as you can." Lastly, the hourglass can be a symbol of hope. When the grains of sand have run through the hourglass of our life, we will, hopefully, find ourselves in the presence of our Creator, ready to enjoy a glorious immortality. Those grains do not need to represent a countdown to our demise, and the growing pool of sand in the bottom of the glass does not need to be depressing. Instead, we can look at it as a growing pile of accomplishments we have achieved in our personal, professional, and Masonic lives that have helped to build our place in the afterlife. It is amazing that such a simple device like an hourglass can come to mean so many different things in different contexts. It is a symbol deeply grounded in human life that helps us explore, on a fundamental level, this journey of life that we are on. It assists us with self-reflection on the path we've chosen for our life. The world needs more men willing to do exactly that. As Freemasons, the pursuit of knowledge and self-reflection should always be at the forefront of our minds. The world needs more men reflecting inwardly on themselves and ready to make positive changes in their lives that affect themselves and those around them in a positive way. Well, it's interesting. So we've read about the Cornerstone as a reference point for the construction of a building, as a foundational point for all of the stones that will go around it. And then the hourglass as a symbol of the end, a symbol of both accomplishment, but a memento mori, a reminder of death, the idea that we should be reminded every day. It's a very stoic idea, the daily reminder that someday you too will die. And therefore, let's do the things that need to get done today. Let's not put them off until tomorrow, because in reality, there may not be a tomorrow. And so one reminds us to be that reference point, to be that upstanding man amongst those who we associate with. And the other reminds us to stick to that moral framework developed within Freemasonry, and that really our hourglass isn't an hourglass. Our hourglass would be black on top. You wouldn't be able to see it. You have no idea if there are 300, or 3 trillion grains of sand in the top of your hourglass. And so these two things work together. The cornerstone, laying the framework by which we can start to build really this moral understanding, our ethical understanding of the world, encouraging us to be just and upright, to be on the level with people, to act upon the square, all of these different ideas. And then the hourglass reminds us exactly why we're doing that. That there will be an end point, and we want to die respected. We want to die missed. We don't want to shuffle off this mortal coil as just another person, as someone who would look back and go, wow, I really wish I hadn't spent so much time popping through videos on YouTube or whatever it is. And so these two lessons brought together become that much more powerful, because they are looking at those two ends, the cornerstone at the beginning and the hourglass at the end. I want to thank Worshipful Brother Dan Johnson for writing those in the Masonic Journal. And finally, it is only left for me to thank you for joining me, Brother Chris Licky, and the entire Further Light team in your quest to to find more light through masonry.
Are you interested in learning more about Freemasonry in Wisconsin? Visit wisconsinmasons.org to learn more about Masonry and access further educational content and more light. Once again, that address is wimasons.org. Any questions, comments, or suggestions, please email us at education@wisconsinmasons.org. And thank you for listening.